Hey guys, it's Sean Green, editor and publisher of Biz Magazine, Northwest Louisiana's #1 business news source. And I'm here today to talk about Tech to Market, an event we're a partner of. And my guest today is actually one of the speakers at the event. His name is Chad Harkness. He is managing director of the Oilfield Marketplace. After a 20-year global oil and gas career, which spanned Canada, Colombia, Algeria, the Netherlands, Paris, where he's talking to us from today, Bucharest, and Houston, he managed to break the shackles and security of corporate life to start the Oilfield Marketplace. It grew out of frustration by the commercial inefficiencies that persisted across departments. And so he created an Amazon-inspired platform for the oil field built by oil and gas industry professionals themselves. So Chad, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Good to be here.
Yeah, and so the reason we're talking today, like I said at the top, is you're going to be a guest for Tech to Market here in Shreveport at the end of this month. And so have you ever been to Shreveport before?
Yeah, actually, I started my funny question. I didn't expect you to start with that one. I started my oil field career in Shreveport.
Okay.
Yeah, as I joined a company called Schlumberger, they offered me a chance to go do my first training in Shreveport, Louisiana. Actually, they offered me Calgary and Shreveport, and I said I kind of said, well, I know Calgary, and I've never been to Shreveport, so what the heck? Let's go to Shreveport, and that was the genesis of it all. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
we're
Good
glad
fun.
to have you back. We're glad to be to have you as a guest here again, and hopefully you can see how things have grown and progressed while you've been gone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
So
it.
first off, Chad, how did you come up with the idea for the oilfield marketplace? Was it born out of frustration with middlemen, or did you see it as more of an opportunity to make everyone's life in the oil and gas industry easier?
Yeah, great question. I think it's probably the latter. Look, again, after 20 years in operations, sales, commercial, dealing with all the different parts of the ecosystem, it's always been an inspiration to me about how we have relentlessly attacked operational efficiency in our industry, right? People wake up every day and figure out how to drill faster, how to get more hydrocarbon out of the ground, better, safer, cleaner. That's always been the sort of drive for continuous improvement has always been a mantra of our industry. But at one point, not too long ago, I sort of sat back and reflected and said, we've done that in almost every aspect of what we do, but not in the way we run the commercial side of the business, right? And
Yeah.
of course, then we start to bring in all the parallels from our personal lives about how our personal efficiency and our personal commercial efficiency has been absolutely transformed, and that experience has been transformed through the use of e-commerce, etc. And I think that's really where the motivation for the oil field marketplace came from.
Okay. I mean, was it uh was the Amazon angle, was that like you said, born out of the personal efficiency of, hey man, I can just order something with one click? Is that kind of how you're like, can we, if we could just do that for the oil and gas industry, would change everything? Is that really kind of like the nut, if you will, of the idea?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the idea of the efficiency of seamlessly connecting buyers and sellers. Get to this one-click culture eventually. We also went back and reflected on how much money the industry wasted during the last downturn, right? Because we don't have a just-in-time supply chain in the oil field. We still have ideas like consignment and all sorts of crazy ideas that if we're honest with ourselves throughout the next 15, 20, 25 years, if we look to that kind of time horizon, we're just not going to be able to afford as an industry, right? There are other energy sources out there that when we look at sort of the fully remediated cost of all of the different sources of energy, oil and gas is going to have to become much more efficient, right? And so this is, yeah, so it's that kind of elimination of waste that we need to get to, and that kind of efficiency that we need to get to.
Yeah. So what about when you started? What about the buy-in from oil and gas folks? What was their reception, and did you have to sell it to them? Did you have to say, "Hey, this is a brand new idea. I need you to be an adopter," or did they get it just instantly?
Right. Look, I think it's interesting. What we like to say is this is as much about a culture change as it is about a technology platform, right? So there has been a lot of selling. There has been, and it's, by the way, oil field's not much different than a lot of different B2B spaces, right? If you look at sort of the technology adoption curve of different industries, what has happened in travel, tourism, media, getting into banking, those are some of the industries that are further ahead. And if you go down sort of that sort of digital adoption curve, oil and gas is still very much, in the bottom quartile. As much as we've talked about it, right? We're still in the bottom quartile until, in terms of the value created by digital, of which e-commerce is a piece of that, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're at the very beginning of the culture change, which means, anytime we're talking about culture change, we mean it's, there's a lot of convincing, there's a lot of selling. I would say the one thing that plays in our favor at this point, though, is that because that transformation has happened in our personal lives, everyone knows what good looks like now, right? Everyone can get where we're coming from. And I think, because one of the other questions I get is, why now? Because there have been other efforts in the past to try and make this work, right? But they were not successful. And I think that is probably one of the big differences, is that people, because it's become ubiquitous in their personal lives, I think they now, they get it a lot. It's a lot easier to get, right? And so I think that's why now. Yeah.
And what challenges did it present when it came to getting off the ground? And that could be, I mean, we talked about, the culture change, but even some of the technological issues you might have had. Can you kind of just pull back the curtain a little bit for us on that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So look, I think in terms of technological, being one of the first that's really trying to leverage digital to connect buyers and sellers, right? In a truly e-commerce way. That foundation, that architecture doesn't exist, right? And so really, my marketing team is really having to work from the bottom up to create that digital understanding of both the buyer and the seller, because that's part of it, right? You don't just build a website and people know to come there. You have to find ways to reach both parties and make sure that they meet in the middle. So I think that's certainly one of the technological challenges. And I think the other big one, and this is one that that we're still working on, but we've got a pretty solid plan behind, is around the ability to give buyers, people who are looking for solutions, the comfort that the solution that they're buying online is the right one for them. If we go to the as-is process, right, which is kind of our which is the process that we're trying to disrupt a little bit. People have their hand held, buyers, have their hand held throughout the sales process by a salesperson, pretty much through the entire buying journey, right? And that's the way our industry functions today, right? That's kind of the status quo, and that is, and therefore we have to give that same level of comfort in a digital environment in order for people to make sure that the frac plug that they're about to spend $1,000 on is the frac plug that they need to do their job, and they've got the confidence, right? Even though they're maybe not an expert in choosing frac plugs, that they've chosen the right thing, right?
Yeah.
And here's where some of our technology partners that we've chosen to work with are really helping us in the background. You can't see it all yet on the website, but this is what we're working on in the background.
Yeah. I mean, customer service is customer service, no matter what medium you're delivering in.
True.
Yeah.
So true. I will say though, Sean, true. But one of the things that we're trying to do, and trying not to do, or one of the things we're trying to do differently, I guess I should say, is again, getting back to the efficiency side. Maybe not throwing tons of people at the problem in terms of customer service, right? Trying to use sort of cutting edge, bleeding edge technology to give still that incredible customer experience in a more efficient, comprehensive way. Because even for individuals today, it's really tough to keep track of all the technology and the application and the problem solution fit, right?
Yeah.
That is something that an individual even has a hard time to do.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like you said earlier, we're so used to that now.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to get on and talk to what is essentially a bot to handle I didn't receive my package. Where's my package issue on when you're buying, soap. So you don't, not everybody wants to talk to a person directly, and I think you can utilize those things, like you said, to where it's not a time drain on someone. So
Yeah, exactly. Of course, we want to go beyond the basic bot, but
yeah,
when we roll that stuff out, then we can talk about it more.
yeah. Well, what has the Oilfield Marketplace done for the industry? I mean, I would have to imagine that it's a game changer.
Yeah. Well, look, we're a growing business, and so we have not had the global game-changing impact yet, but we can start to see some really interesting impacts. Shifting the focus right to commercial efficiency. So this is a conversation that we need to bring on the table. In order for us to remain relevant in the global energy mix. Because we're ultimately trying to drive down the cost per barrel for everyone, right? For the people that produce the energy, but also for the people that need the energy in order to have better lives. I think we've proven then that this kind of innovation benefits everyone, right? It can be good for buyers and for sellers. And I think, really what we're trying to do then is build something that works for everyone. Is open, right? This is an open platform. It's unbiased. It is vendor neutral. It is buyer neutral. And therefore, it's in that spirit, it's very collaborative and open. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you guys, I mean, efficiency drives down the cost of doing business, then that means that you don't have to keep the price of the product you're selling, in this case, a barrel of oil, up here, so that the consumer doesn't have to pay that. So if you guys can increase efficiencies, it causes the price of gas to go down. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So now let's switch to tech to market.
Right.
What do you plan on bringing to the event, either physically or just in what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're really excited to come to this event. We're very thankful for the invite. Look, I think one of the cool things in this environment, one of the big roles we can play, is that I believe that the oilfield marketplace really has a strong value proposition for the innovators, right? One of the big challenges I would imagine we've heard them from some of the people that have joined our platform. One of their big challenges is getting their innovation to market in an efficient way, right? Particularly in North America land. It's a big place. There are lots of customers, and there are all, buyers are super busy. Anybody that's been to Midland recently and sat in a customer's office with the 40 other service providers all trying to talk about their products and their services, it is tough to get bandwidth, right, of the drilling engineers and production engineers and completion engineers making these buying decisions. And so I think really what we can do, right, is we give those same buyers an extremely efficient way to learn about new innovations that can help them make their operations much more efficient. So I think that's really one of the key roles that we have to play. That goes along with that. Again, people probably don't know, and I didn't know honestly before we built this platform. But doing e-commerce, doing it well, is actually relatively expensive, right? It's not an inconsequential sum of money to set up a proper B2B e-commerce platform. And so we've now taken that risk and that we've taken that risk away from everyone. So that's something that I think we bring also to the innovator, and to help them get their technology to market faster. The marketing support, again, we're building those lists in terms of understanding who buyers and sellers are and making sure we connect the two, right? So I think on the marketing support, we can help a lot. And quite honestly, I think, again, my marketing team does a fantastic job in making people's products look really great. If you follow our kind of LinkedIn feeds or Twitter or some of the other collateral we put out there, I think will help. Inventors are great at a lot of things. Sometimes they have gaps in things like marketing. Sometimes they're not things they're completely savvy with, right? And we step in and help a little bit on that front as well, because that's, again, good for everybody.
Yeah, that's cool. So what can people expect from your speech or your presentation, and how can they engage with you outside of the event, either through social or just if you have any blogs or video content you're producing?
Yeah, great question. So look, I think we'll obviously talk about the oilfield marketplace and how it can help bring innovation to market. But I think I think being an entrepreneur now for the last year and a bit on this particular topic. I think I'd love to have some offline conversations with young entrepreneurs on their journey, and I guess I in general I like to, it's a community a little bit, anybody that's done this, right? And so sharing information, mentoring, so I'm happy to do that. But I would say talking about how digital can be leveraged in general, right? That's another thing that as an industry we're not super savvy about, right? So how to leverage digital, just be open, honest about some of the challenges we've had to overcome. And in terms of how you can get a hold of me, email anytime, chadh@theofmp.com, or just LinkedIn me, or you can get a hold of me almost anywhere.
Basic social channels, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chad, is there anything else you want to say before we conclude the interview? Or I know that you're halfway across the world, so you've got bigger and better things to do than talk to me. So.
Well, I don't know about bigger and better things, but well, look, I guess I just want to give a shout out to my team, the entire team at the Oilfield Marketplace. You guys rock, and to all of you at the event. I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face and getting back and seeing where I started my oilfield career in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Chad Harkness, Managing Director of the Oilfield Marketplace. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thanks a lot.
We'll see you guys later.